Hi, I'm back again with another video. Welcome to Marxisms. Please like and subscribe. Please share. And by all means, please comment. I love to hear the comments. I love to read them. I don't care if they're critical. I'll respond to them. It's great if they're not critical. I mean, that's good too. But I don't mind having a little bit of debate. And somebody actually said, "Oh, I'm glad to see you read your comments." And yeah, I do. I mean, I care about your opinion, and I may disagree with it, but that's America, right? Anyway, um, one of the commenters accused me of throwing around the word fascism, but we're going to talk about fascism today. I That is not something I do, and I know he's right that a lot of people do, but he's pinning that on me falsely. He doesn't know anything about me. I am a former Republican committee member, and have been called a fascist myself because of that. And it's nonsense because I'm not. But honestly, today's Republican Party is very much fascism, and I'm going to talk about that. And we're gonna discuss what fascism is, and we're going to discuss what this administration is doing that is fascist. Pretty much everything. So, um, and I have to say also that Trump throws these terms around. He's called the Democrats fascists. He's called them communists. Now, I am not a Democrat. I am a registered Democrat right now, just because in this country, when you have a two-party system, in order to vote in the primary, you have to be registered with one of the two parties. I refuse to be registered Republican at this particular time in history because the Republicans are fascists. Yes, and we will talk about that. The Democrats are not communists. The Democrats are capitalists. Um, there's some that have some fascist or some socialist viewpoints for sure. Um, in some ways, not enough. Thing with communism or socialism is there's some really good aspects of socialism that are great. It's the problem with it is how you get there. Like Marxism, which I am not. The name of my page is Marxisms, but that's because my name is Mark, and these are my isms, my beliefs. Okay, it's not because I am a Marxist. I am not. I do not like Marxism or Marx. I've read Das Kapital, and I've read the Communist Manifesto. In fact, I have a copy of the Communist Manifesto in my bookcase over there. I'm also very well versed on um, Nazism and um, fascism. I study history. I have for a very long time. I'm 61 years old, and I've been studying history since I was about 13, maybe 12. I became interested reading the John Jakes bicentennial series. You know, the Bastard, the Rebel, and all those. There was a bunch of them. I started reading those as a kid, and started looking up, and because we always had encyclopedias and history books in my house, because my father and my grandfather were both very much historians. Um, they So I was able to read those books afterwards. A lot of philosophy, and a lot of history. In fact, this book was my father's. He's got his little thing inside there. The library. What is it called? Is it in here? Yeah, he's got one in here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Ex Libris. So that's in here. So this is a great. This is the. I've had. It's funny. I've had people see the swastika on my shelf in pictures, and they go, "Oh, see, you have Mein Kampf in there." I have read Mein Kampf. I have Mein Kampf as well, um, because I'm a political scientist as well as a historian. So you have to read these things. But this is actually William Shirer's book. He wrote this on the rise and fall of the Third Reich. He was a journalist and was stationed in Germany during the early parts of the war before the Americans were in it, and stayed with and studied the whole thing, and was writing this book while the war was going on. And so he knows the history very well. Um, the thing is, a lot of people say, well, it's National Socialism, so they're liberals. It's like, no, that's kind of like saying that the North Korea, the People's Democratic Republic of Korea, is somehow democratic. Well, we know that that's not true. The Nazis did the same thing. It was originally called the German Workers' Party. Um, it was just it was a ruse. It was they were using the communists and the socialists to get into power, making coalition governments with them, and um, they famously said, "Well, we're not really worried about the Nazis. They're just kind of this subgroup of nutty guys. We'll be able to control them." Oh, they were so wrong. A lot of similarities between Hitler and Trump, and a lot of similarities between America today and fascism. And we're going to start getting into that real quick here. But anyway, I just want to say that this is not something that I throw around. Like I said, I've been a Republican all of my life up until the Trump era came around. And even for early on, I was just kind of hoping that Trump was just a lot of talk and stuff like that. And he honestly didn't get a lot of his agenda done in the first term, but I was still very unhappy with what he was doing because it's very undemocratic, very unrepublican, the things he was doing, and more along the lines of fascism. And then when I read during the disastrous Biden years, I read Project 2025, and it was like, okay, there it is, right there. That's the blueprint for a fascist state, for an authoritarian government, nationalism, Christian nationalism. Um, and I knew it was coming. And with Trump's ego and everything else, I mean, he's the perfect kind of guy to become a dictator. I mean, listen to him talk. He's like, I'm smarter than everybody else. I have a bigger brain than everybody else. Nobody knew this before me. Who knew that houses had garages? Stuff like that. I mean, it's just like, who knew? Everybody fucking knew. What are you talking about? And then, which goes to show that it was something new to him that he didn't know and was, told. I'm obviously exaggerating about the garage thing, but some of the things that he said like that are really obvious things that most people with common knowledge know, and he acts like he's the first one to ever know it, and it's kind of telling if you really look at it on the face of it that he's acting like, wow, this is amazing information, who knew this? And then he's like praising himself because he now knows it. We already knew it. So a guy with that kind of ego and that kind of lack of intellect is really a dangerous mix. But anyway, let's get into what fascism is. And here we go. Let's see. Where did that go here? Oh boy, that's awesome. I lost my window. Hold on. Okay. I don't know what happened, but it went bye. But I got it back. Okay, here we go. Right here. I probably should put this in a bigger window too. Hang on, just all right. So here it is. I'm going to put it on the large screen so that you can see it better and so that I could read it. It's pretty small on my screen. It's probably large enough on yours, but not on mine. So anyway, so fascism is a far-right authoritarian political ideology that emphasizes nationalism, centralized power, and the subordination of individual freedoms to the interests of the state or nation. It often involves dictatorial leadership, suppression of dissent, and control of the economy, the media, and culture to maintain unity and obedience. All right, so let's talk about that first part for a minute. Um, Far right, fascism is far right. We know that Trump is far right, and we know the MAGA movement is far right. We know that he has an authoritarian ideology. Some of you might not want to agree with that. It's true though. He doesn't care what the courts think. He gets his own legal teams who have an ideology, a certain ideology, and he goes with those. Emphasis on nationalism. You guys all say you're nationalists, Christian nationalism and all that stuff. Um, being proud of your country is one thing, and I think most Democrats are, but nationalism, putting, it's like America first and everything. It's like, how about, everybody in the world is kind of important. I know, your American citizens are important, of course. But, the rest of the world's important. And if you're a Christian and you guys claim to be, then, you should be really kind to foreigners, according to the Bible. Um, and let's see. The next is dictatorial leadership, suppression of dissent. Well, we know there's a suppression of dissent. People are dissenting all over the country. They're protesting mostly peacefully in front of places like ICE facilities in Portland and Chicago. And what does the Trump administration do? They send National Guard to, he's claiming that, Portland is a war zone, that Chicago's a war zone, and that we need to send troops there. Well, no, they're not. There's been far worse violence January 6th than there ever was at any of these places. Yeah, the George Floyd thing got pretty heated, and the rhetoric from Fox News and this president and people on the right who say that there was just cities burning to the ground and all this. It's not true. These protests happened in relatively small areas. I remember in Oakland. I remember going to work the day after. I was working in Oakland, California at the time, and it was the area around the federal building, and the rest of the city remained unscathed. There were some windows broken. There was actually some gunshots, some bullet holes in the glass. Yeah, I mean, in those areas, yes, there were, but it was not super widespread. Same with Portland. I've shown on my videos that the city is not burning to the ground, and it didn't during the George Floyd riots either. It was a very small area. It was like one block, and they burned a police station. You know, well, they were protesting 400 years of oppression, racism, slavery, segregation, redlining, some really horrible things. We treated minorities in this country like crap all the way up until the 70s. I have a house. I bought a house that was built in 1960, and in the deed, it showed where you could not sell it to certain groups of people. You were barred by law from selling it to it said Orientals. We call them Asians because Oriental is not. I don't think it's a bad term. People there use Oriental. I was dating a Filipino lady for a while, and she's like, I don't know what's wrong with Oriental, and it's like I don't know, nothing. But anyway, that was the language in there, was that you could not sell it. So it was a red line district. It was a red line neighborhood. This was a white neighborhood. You were not allowed to sell your house to a minority. So these are things that took place for a long time. And the George Floyd things, whether you like George Floyd or not, I mean, yeah, the guy, wasn't the best person in the world, but it was just another case of just police brutality, basically. I mean, they ended up killing him using illegal tactics, and it's like you blame them. It's like, well, they commit all the crime. It's like, well, think about it. Think about how they've been treated in this country for all those decades and hundreds of years. They don't trust the police. They've been brutalized by them. They've been illegally pulled over, illegally searched, illegally arrested for years, for decades. You had the Klan running around, and you're saying, "Oh, those were Democrats." It's like it was the South, and actually, racism was on both, was North, South, whatever, and the two parties were completely different at the time. The Republican Party was the liberal party at the time. The Democrats were the conservative party. It changed with the Dixiecrats when the Democrats started registering black people and started accepting civil rights, whereas it used to be a Republican issue. They formed a Dixiecrat party and then eventually joined the Republican Party. All of the South is Republican today. All of the South used to be Democrats. You're going to tell me they all moved and the Democrats moved from the North into the South? That's not what happened. It's the parties changed. So that's a historical fact. So anyway, it's really hard when you have all these silly beliefs, and I hear this nonsense all the time. Oh, but that was the Democrats that held slaves. It's like, yeah, but that's the Republican Party today. So anyway, that having been said, okay, so let's go to our bigger version of this here. Okay. Here are core traits most historians and political theorists associate with fascism: authoritarian leadership. Power is concentrated in a single ruler or party, often portrayed as the embodiment of the nation's will. Does that not sound like Trump and the Republican Party? Yeah, it does. We're right and you're wrong because we have the Bible on our side or this or that. And incidentally, Trump is not a guy who reads the Bible. He's never read it. He can't quote his favorite quote in the Bible because he doesn't have one. He's never read it. I have read it. Once again, I'm a historian, and I've actually, one of the things I've studied is the history of Christianity. I've read the Apostolic Fathers. I've read the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is not Christian, by the way, and the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, which is the Gnostic Gospels. And I've read a lot of the other documents, the Didache, and some of these other things that were early Christian documents. And these are things that I'll bet some of you Christians are going, "What's the Didache?" Well, look it up. I'm ahead of you on that, probably. I have books on Buddhism. I've done a little bit of work on Hinduism. Not really that interested in it, honestly. Um, uh, Islam, I have a Quran, and definitely have studied Judaism. And of course, my kids are Jewish, and we, did all the holidays and stuff. And so I was always very interested in what was going on, and used to talk to my in-laws about it a lot, and did my own study. I've read um, Jews, God, and History. In fact, my girlfriend is borrowing my book and reading it right now, and she's like completely fascinated with it. It's a great book. And I've read the Anonymous Soldier, which is about Israel, the state of Israel. So I'm probably ahead of the game on a lot of you people out there who always try to tell me that I'm not informed. I'm pretty well informed. So anyway, Trump ignores due process. He has when when it comes to separation of powers, he ignores courts. That's a violation of the Constitution. Both those are a violation of the Constitution, direct violations. These aren't, you know, like, oh, kind of everybody who said, well, Obama did this and that. I was not a big Obama fan, by the way. I think he was a great guy, but, I didn't like him as a leader. But that having been said, Trump is actually directly violating the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. Its intention is that all citizens that are people that are born here are citizens, all people. There's things in there they say, no, that's only for citizens. It says all persons or people. It does not say citizens. If you read the Constitution, you will see that it does not specify that you have to be a citizen for these rights to be for these to be your rights. When you're here in the United States, these are the rights of everybody. So that means if you're here illegally, you still are allowed due process. That's the whole point of our founding, was that they believed in these human rights that were brought forth through the Enlightenment period. Okay, extreme nationalism. Okay, you guys can't deny that. Often defined by ethnicity, culture, or history. I mean, that kind of speaks for itself. You got to speak English. Well, what if you live in New Mexico? If you live in New Mexico, guess what? It's a you know what the official language of New Mexico is? Spanish and English. There's two, not just one. There's two, and that's because most of the people here are Mexican. I mean, there's, white people like me that have moved down here, but everybody that I know here is either uh, Mexican or they're married to a Mexican, and there's very few that aren't. So the culture is very big down here. Mexican culture is looked at as a good thing, and it is a good thing actually. I know Mexico has its problems just like we do. But their big problem is that Americans buy drugs and sell them guns, and they have these cartels that supply Americans with drugs, and Americans supply them with guns. Yeah, so once again, we're a part of the problem, and we don't like to admit it. Okay, so the next thing is militarism and violence. Well, sending troops to um, Portland and Chicago and LA and DC and all the places he wants to. I mean, what is that? I mean, that's militarism. And they bring the violence. I mean, there's clips out there you could see where people are just peacefully protesting and they're assaulted by chemical weapons and bean bags and pepper balls and everything else by these. I'm going to call them Gestapo because they are these ICE and these other federal police forces. Allegedly, they're just Gestapo. They don't wear badges. They wear masks, and they act like Gestapo. At least the Gestapo didn't. They didn't wear masks. They didn't hide who they were because they weren't pussies like these guys are. But whatever. Suppression of opposition. That's exactly what's going on in Portland and Chicago and LA. Political opponents, independent news media. Jimmy Kimmel, take Jimmy Kimmel off the air because he says things that the dictator doesn't like. I mean, and don't say, oh, it's because he had poor ratings. He did not have poor ratings. The ratings were spread around amongst all the late night talk shows, which were all on the same time. And the number one ratings in that time slot was Stephen Colbert, who was the first one to go down. And then the second highest ratings in that time slot was Jimmy Kimmel. Well, guess who has number one ratings now? Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmels are destroying everything, everybody. I mean, he's getting millions and millions more viewers thanks to this. Gotta love that. So that's suppression of the opposition, political opponents, independent media. He's suing media for saying things that he doesn't like. It used to be where the news media was able to report things about the leaders of the country and not have them coming along and suing or threatening with using the FCC to threaten them, their license and stuff like that. That's how he's doing it. He's going after his political opponents like Comey. He just had him indicted, and then he's going after using lawfare. Like you guys, he likes to try to say that Biden was using lawfare against him because the state of New York, a grand jury of his peers indicted him, and a jury of his peers convicted him of felonies. That somehow Biden creating lawfare. No, it's not. That is not what happened. You can believe that all you want. It's just fallacy. What he's doing is exactly what he says that Biden was doing. He's using those departments and creating a situation. I mean, he went after Bolton because Bolton spoke out against him and wrote a book. The stuff in Bolton's book, by the way, was cleared before he published it, and then it got uncleared after he published it. So you might want to get your facts on that. Corporatism. Okay. instead of free market capitalism, which we don't. He's not. That's Republicans used to be for free markets. Um, so he's doing away with that, and instead of free markets or socialism, like Social Security, he wants to go after that. He wants to go after. Um, he's going after Obamacare and things like that. We should have these things. We're the only nation, industrialized nation in the world that doesn't have a decent healthcare system. Our healthcare system is in the tank because of it's too expensive. It's become controlled by corporations. And if you don't believe me, go look at see what Sutter is. And the one I'm in is here in New Mexico is owned by a company in Tennessee. They're the ones that run our healthcare. It's really expensive. Healthcare has gotten very expensive. Doctors are few, and you're herded like cattle through these things. It's absolutely despicable. It's not healthcare. I have a friend who is has very severe prostate cancer. He's like almost 70 years old, and now I'm a prostate cancer survivor, and I was diagnosed with it at 45. And I was diagnosed with it because I asked for a PSA test. They've never, no doctor he's ever had has ever told him he should get a PSA test. He goes in for regular physicals, and he does what they tell him to do. And he's like, they go, okay, we're going to go have these tests. So he goes and gets blood drawn and stuff like that. They've never had him take a PSA until I think he mentioned it to him. So he's 70 years old and they never gave him a PSA. That's insane. They basically killed this guy. It's not right. So corporatism. This is corporatism. Okay, fascist states organize society into state-controlled corporations. Hello, that's what we got, or syndicates representing business, labor, and government. Well, this is exactly what's going on. He's already threatened all of the richest corporations in the world. They so that they can make these deals. Ellison has gotten to be very big. They've got a conglomerate of news, and he's getting more. And that's because he made a deal with the devil. I mean, Trump, devil, Trump, the beast, whatever. Um, that's corporatism right there. His kids are he's using the office of president to get rich. He's like $8 billion richer since he's become president. How does that happen? Because it's insider trading. It's he's threatening people to he's threatening law firms to they now work for him for free because he threatens to sue them and use basically they know that all he has to do is use the government, which is totally unconstitutional and wrong, and it is authoritarian. Uh, okay, so let's see. Anti-democratic. Well, yeah. I mean, look what he's doing in Texas. First of all, he's redistricting between censuses so that he can. Now I know gerrymandering has gone on for a long time, um, but it's done in a certain way, and I don't agree with it. I don't think it. I mean, we have to have draw these lines, but they should be reasonable lines. But he's asked the state of Texas to redraw their lines and create 5 Republican seats so that he doesn't lose the election. I mean, that's stealing. That's in a way stealing the election. He's going against the norms, against the rules. We'll see if we even have an election, midterm election. I'm guessing that we won't, and it certainly won't be fair. Anyway, so fascist states organize society into state-controlled corporations. Oh, we already did that. Anti-democratic rejects liberal democracy, elections with true opposition, and checks and balances. Bingo, checks and balances. There we go. There's another one. Uh, he doesn't care about checks and balances. The court ordered him not to use the National Guard. He was going to use the Oregon National Guard in Portland. And federal court said, yeah, no, you can't do that. So what's he do? He sends the California National Guard up there. Well, he's getting sued on that too. He's been told that he can't deport certain people without due process. He does it anyway. He just ignores them. So that's ignoring checks and balances right there. He's rejected checks and balances. He has a Congress that's a rubber stamp for him because they're all a bunch of sycophants, the Republicans, and that's why he wants to, make sure he rigs the election so that he can win um, the midterms and not be impeached, because he will be impeached if the Democrats get in there. I guarantee it, and he should be. Um, Now you're going to all you MAGA are going to say, but the Democrats do that. They did not steal the election in 2020. That did not happen. You have no evidence of it. No one is ever able to present any evidence of it. I've had people all through the whole process tell me, oh, wait, it's coming. Wait, it's coming. Oh, the Kraken, she's got it. It's coming. It never happened. There is no evidence. He lost 83 times in court over it. There is no evidence that the election was stolen because it wasn't. It's just absurd. Fox News got their pantsuit off over made these claims. If he really did, if the election really was stolen, it would have been a massive conspiracy that involved both Republicans and Democrats. People don't understand how elections work. You think, oh, we need to have voter ID so we know who's voting because the illegals are voting. No, they're not, because we have things called the registrar of voters. And I'm going to tell you how this works. When you register to vote, they check out who you are and where you live. They look at your documents. They go look. They have access to these things. They can go look to see, okay, he's getting bills at this particular residence, and so obviously he doesn't live there. When I moved to New Mexico from California, I re-registered in New Mexico. I didn't tell them anything in California. I didn't need to. It's none of their business. But they make it their business. They when they went through their files at election time, which they do. They all do this, and they saw that, oh, he's registered in New Mexico. So they sent me a letter. They said, well, it says here that you're registered in New Mexico. Is that true? And then if it wasn't, I would have to prove to them that somehow I lived in California. So they already knew. I didn't tell them. They knew. And that's how they know if somebody registers illegally. And there are people that have registered illegally, but the registrar of voters bumps them out. So illegals are not voting in our elections. That's just nonsense. It's just you don't know how things work. I was an elected Republican committee member in Sonoma County, California, for a number of years, for over a decade. And so I know how elections work. I know how the registrar works. Evie Lewis, now departed, she was a Republican, but she was a registrar there, and she was very fair. And she would explain to us how it all worked. I mean, so I know how it works. You guys have never done that. You need to call your registrar or whoever does your, it's not always called a registrar in every state, but you need to call them and ask them, how does this work? Because frankly, most of you don't know. Anybody that says we need to have voter ID, it doesn't. When you go to the polls, they already know if you're legal. They already know where you live. They have your address. They know if you're a legal citizen. They know all of that stuff already. And then you sign. When you go and you get your ballot, you sign it. And then if they find any discrepancy, if all of a sudden somebody comes up later and goes, hey, I'm Mark and I live at this address, they're going to go, wait a minute, somebody just already did that. And so what they'll do is they have you fill out what do they call it? A provisional ballot. And then they determine which one was right. So there's a good system in place. The election in 2020 was not stolen. That is absolutely absurd. Okay, so I know you're still not going to believe me. No, it was. Show me the evidence. You have none. Scapegoating often blames minorities, foreigners, or political enemies for national problems. We know that Trump does that. It's like everything, even if he did it, and there's so many things that's like that happened during his last term that he blames on Biden. It's Biden's fault. It's the Democrats' fault. They did this. I didn't do that. Foreigners, it's the Mexicans. They're the cause of all the crimes and drugs. All of you people especially the illegals, which are just not true. Illegals make up a very, 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 very small percentage of the crimes that are committed in the country. Um, so that's scapegoating. Homosexuals, we have to protect our youth because homosexuals are grooming people. Well, first of all, nobody's grooming anybody. Well, actually, the Ku Klux Klan and the white supremacists are. But I've said this before. We had an human interactions class at the school that I went to. I went to Petaluma High School, and we talked about homosexuality in there. And when we talked about homosexuality, 100% of the people that were not homosexual stayed not homosexual. They were heterosexual. The people that were homosexual probably still said that they were heterosexual. In fact, I know that that's true because it was not politically correct back in those days to be homosexual, so they hid it. But the truth is, it never converted anybody to being gay. Drag shows do not make people gay. Bob Hope, I can't think of the guy's name now. But there's a lot of guys like Bob Hope did. He did drag shows. The drag shows have been done for years. The Old West was full of drag shows because men were mostly the actors back then. So they dressed up and did the women's parts. Drag shows have been going on forever, and they've never turned anybody gay. 100% not. There's always been gay people, and it's because they're gay. Simple. Not because of a book they read. I mean, think about it. Think of all the gay people out there. Do you think that because they read a book about heterosexuals that they became heterosexual? No, it didn't happen. They were still homosexual. So it doesn't work that way. Books don't make you gay. Vaccines don't make you gay. It's just nonsense. As far as protecting your youth from pedophiles, I got some facts for you here. And the fact is that you are far more likely to be to have your kid molested either by either your son or your daughter going to a Christian church than to any kind of drag show or hanging around with a gay man. Now we were babysat. My brother and I were babysat by a gay man who was a friend of my dad's when we were little. We were 100% never molested by him. It wasn't a thing. He was a good guy. He was a friend of my dad's, and he would never do that. He was a lifelong friend of my family's, and he never touched us in any inappropriate way whatsoever. I've known gay people all my life, having lived in California, and I don't know any of them to ever have done anything like that. In fact, the statistics show that 0.1 to 0.3% of openly gay homosexual men are responsible for any kind of child molestation. Okay, 33%. Now this is outside of the home because most of the sexual assaults happen within your family. It's like an uncle and sometimes your dad, who are often Christians, by the way. But outside of the home, 33% are by Christian men in a Christian church setting. That is far more than any gay person. So that, again, is scapegoating. If you want to target a group of people, you need to target the Christian community. And it's not just the Catholic Church. This is across all denominations of Christianity. And that's a fact. And you can go try to find those statistics, and there's various statistics out there, but that's basically it. You'll find that the overwhelming majority of sexual assaults outside the home happen by Christian males, and in the home as well, for that matter. Okay, scapegoating. So we know they scapegoat. So that's 8 of the 9 right here. All right. So, and there's some other things out there too. But then here's number 9, cult of tradition. You MAGA are definitely a cult. And masculinity. Okay, so what did we just hear from Pete Kegsbreath the other day, that DUI hire who is unqualified to run the Pentagon. What did he do? He wants to have the male, what did he call it? The male standard, the highest male standard. Okay, so there's your masculinity. We know they're a bunch of misogynists. We know that he's been accused of, he was at a women's federated, which is a women's Republican group. I know them well and have known many members of Women's Federated over the years. I have been friends with some and enemies, but he tried to sexually assault somebody at a Women's Federated convention, drunk as usual, as always. The guy's clearly an alcoholic, but this whole machismo. We can't have soldiers in dresses and this and that. Well, I don't know how many soldiers we have in dresses, honestly. But total obedience to everything that he wants. There's a couple of things missing here from this list too. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to get those. Emphasis on traditional roles. He goes with the whole Bible thing, and he was being grilled, and one of the generals wrote a book, and he was being grilled about what was in it, and he was saying that that he was asked. It was his predecessor. I think it was Miley's book, I guess, was asked to shoot protesters in the legs. And they were asking him if he would do that, and he just goes, "Oh, well, you can't believe everything you read in a book, unless it's the Bible," which is kind of funny because you can't believe everything that's in the Bible because it's not all true. There's definitely some things that are true in there, but yeah, no, it's not 100% true. Anyway, you'll argue with me on that too. Hang on just a sec. I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, I'm going to finish this off though. Culture of masculine, I already did that. All right. Fascism is just a step from liberal capitalism, where instead of maintaining the status quo, they must defend the status quo by creating an outgroup to deflect from the growing unrest inherent in the late stage capitalism, and that's true too. I'm not going to get into explaining that. You'll figure it out. You can look that up if you want. You'll probably disagree with that, but late stage capitalism is basically we've kind of staved that off because America's a different kind of system. We have a lot of freedom and a lot of space to do things, and so it's made it difficult for that to fully take place. It took place a little bit better back in the robber baron days when people didn't really have, the big corporations ran everything. It's getting that way now again because it's a smaller world. Back then, we were kind of more isolated to the East Coast, and so it was easier to do. But anyway, that's a bigger subject, and I don't want to get into that. And let me get up this. I have a whole nother list. It's similar to this one, but I'm going to put that up here in just a second. Let me go back to this screen for now, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm just going to read from this list. So this list is a little bit, has a little bit more on it. Dictatorship, we already went over that. Ultranationalism, we went over that. Militarism and violence, it glorifies the military strengths and uses violence for both the internal cleansing, as we're seeing now, and external expansion. Not so much yet, but we're, definitely doing some stuff in the Caribbean right now. We'll see how that plays out. Forcible suppression of opposition, we're seeing that. Economic regimentation, the economy is brought under the control of the state, which that's exactly what he's doing. He's controlling the steel industry. He's controlling the media. He's trying to control social media. And of course, he has Fox News who are just willing shills. We know they're just Nazi propagandists. I know that people don't like me saying that, but we know they're entertainment. I mean, they argued in court. Let's face it, Trump or Fox News argued in court when during the 2020 election hoax. They argued that, because they were saying they were saying that um, Trump won the election and the election was stolen, and but their emails said otherwise. They did not believe that, and so when they were brought into court, their argument was that we're Fox Entertainment, that they're just entertainment, they're not news, and that no person in their reasonable mind should accept what we say as fact. Yeah, I agree with that. Scapegoating, we went over that. Powerful and continuing nationalism, we went over that. That's what Project 2025 is largely about. Disdain for human rights, you guys don't care. There's genocide going on in Israel and in Gaza, and all I hear is you egging on Israel. You don't have to be against Israel necessarily, but you should definitely be against what they're doing. We have differing opinions on that. And being against Zionism and the state of Israel is not anti-Semitism. It is not the same thing. My man on the street wrote an article, or wrote his what's a thesis on that. As a matter of fact, it's a really good thesis, by the way. It's published. You can probably find it out there. Identifying enemies and scapegoats, supremacy of the military, glorifying and glorifying violence, which, that's what just happened the other day with that stupid meeting. He wants to have a violent, aggressive military, and which, we should have a military that definitely does their job, but how violent and how aggressive? Let's stay within norms of humanity, maybe? I don't know. Controls mass media. I mean, that's what he's doing, trying to get Jimmy Kimmel fired, and trying to, and suing all the news media that anytime they say anything that he doesn't like, even if it's true. Obsession of national security. Fear is used as a tool to control the populace and the government, emphasizing threats to the national security. Portland's a threat to the national security because there's a bunch of furries on the street. We can't have that. They're a threat to national security. And we know that he's doing that. Any dissent against him is considered a threat to national security. He'll probably consider my podcast here a threat to national security. Corporate power is protected, and that's true. A lot of it is brought under bay, but if you look at Nazi Germany, they controlled businesses to a point, but allowed others that were Nazi sympathizers, like Porsche. Krups is another one so they were allowed to exist and make money and all that, and they did stuff for the Nazis. That's exactly what's going on here. That's why all the guys like Ellison and everything, they've all Facebook dude, Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, they've all paid homage to him. Labor power suppression. Well, he's definitely suppressing labor. They don't like unions. They want to get rid of them. Unions are a good thing. They're being labeled as communist. I don't know how they're communists when it's just a bunch of people getting together to fight against big business. The real socialists are the big business who get all the tax breaks and subsidies and all that stuff. That's the real socialism that goes on in this country. Always has, by the way. And then they're able to use the police to break up strikes and stuff like that. And then the people striking are called Reds. Very interesting. Obsession with crime and punishment. The regime fosters a sense of being under attack. Portland again, LA. They're going after not just illegal aliens, but people that are here legally. In many cases, some people have argued with that over me, but it's absolute fact. A punitive approach to justice. Comey. I mean, look what they're doing. Rampant cronyism. I mean, look at his kids; they're making billions off their stupid crypto thing. He's making billions. All his sycophants are making money. We just had uh, a bill go through, the big beautiful bill, and what that does is it actually anybody, all the top 1% are gonna get a tax break. They're gonna be making more money, and other people, like poorer people and middle class people, we're paying more under that bill. We are going to be paying more money. The tax breaks that I get in my tax bracket are going down. I will make less money than I would have made if he hadn't passed that bill. So that is cronyism. And it's corruption. And what he's doing is he's hurting the American people. Look what he's done to the farmers in this country. They're going under. They're having to sell their farms. And who's picking up that land? His cronies. The oligarchs, the American oligarchs are getting those farms. Cheap too, by the way. And then of course fraudulent elections again. All of these things, every single one of these things is exactly what the administration is doing. So anybody that says that I'm throwing around the word fascism, you're just wrong, because Trump and this administration are fascists, and all of the points of fascism he falls into. There's not one. I mean, when I first started looking up what definitions are, I mean, I already knew what fascism was, but I started looking up definitions a long time ago. And every time you come across, okay, here's what the core beliefs of fascism are. You go through the list, and it's like, geez, this is what this guy is. And then now that he's been elected, you could go back to those same lists and go, that's exactly what's happening. That is what's happening. So, no, I do not throw around the word fascism. I am using it correctly and in the proper context. This is a fascist government that we have now. Trump is a fascist. MAGA is fascist. You're Nazis. It's just that simple. Peace.